As a mental health advocate and author, I love books. Books have the capacity to inspire, educate, transform, and ultimately help readers all over the world. So if you want to publish your book or if you need help writing your story, I highly recommend Mindstir Media, rated the #1 best book publisher around the country. Mindstir Media can help you no matter where you are in the book writing or publishing process. Go to mindstirmedia.com to learn more and schedule a consultation.
Out Comes the Sun with Mariel Hemingway and Melissa Yamaguchi. Out Comes the Sun compassionately helps you navigate mental wellness practices that you can apply to your daily life. And we tell your story. And now, Mariel Hemingway and Melissa Yamaguchi.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Out Comes the Sun Radio. You are listening to me, Mariel Hemingway, with my amazing co-host, Melissa Yamaguchi. And we are going to talk today about, we have a great show, by the way, super great guest. But today we're going to talk about something very interesting, I think. We're going to talk about the orcas in Spain, because the orcas in Spain, there was, so there's this story.
Outside of Spain.
Outside of Spain. Why don't you tell the story since you know it better?
Well,
you know the story better.
Around 2018.
The whale story.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Around 2018-19, there was an orca mother and her calf were doing what orca mothers and calves do when a ship came by and the rudder hurt the baby, hurt the calf, and the calf died. And the mother orca in her pain began slamming into the ship and sunk it. And in her grief and her wailing, no pun intended there, she continued to hit other ships and started sinking ships. And the other orcas began learning from her. There was an anger, a collective anger about these ships that are disrupting our earth down here, our world down here. And so orcas have been ramming them. So the Spanish government, as well as the Portuguese government and all the other surrounding countries, were trying to figure out how they could address this, when a lot of psychologists have been talking about what it could possibly mean on a bigger scale. And then I was telling you that just the other day, there was a 2-manned kayak out in the ocean here on the Pacific side, and paddle boarders were coming nearby them and had some body cams on their vest, and witnessed a whale come up and swallow the 2-manned kayak. And then, this is Bogey Dick. This is
I know. Stuff. Well, when you told me, I was walking on the beach, I said, that's a Moby Dick. SHIT.
It's absolutely, I said it too. It's absolutely Moby Dick. And so the paddle boarders immediately dropped their oars and began paddling like crazy back to shore, but turned around and witnessed the whale spit out the kayakers. Right. But you and I began talking about what does all this mean?
Just to interrupt you, they're still alive. Those humans are still alive. So
they're still alive.
Actually,
live to tell the tale. That's exactly right.
Which is crazy. But to me, this is nature's way of saying, hey, enough. We are being, this is our nature, our land, our home as well. So please take care of us. I think it's why our weather has gone cuckoo bananas, because the earth is trying to tell us, look, you gotta hang in there for us. You gotta help us out. I've been an environmentalist since I was a kid. I used to go to Washington, DC and testify in Washington about the environment back in the day. And now it's just, I think the animals are trying to tell us, like, we need to take care of one another.
Yes.
We do. Oftentimes it's not just like these whales who are attacking ships or eating kayakers. or taking a big bite of them. It's sometimes when animals are helping each other, there's
Yes.
like, you can see all kinds of crazy things on YouTube where dogs are helping other kinds of animals, or, like bears. They're coming together to say, it's almost like, please do as we do. Like, we need to be more of a community. I think because we've become so divided as human beings, we're so segregated, we're so this, our belief system, I don't care about yours, whatever. And it's isolating us as humans, and the animals are kind of going, hey, we need to come together. This, our planet is in jeopardy because of how we've treated it. So
Yeah.
I think it's kind of it's symbolic of really what we need to do as human beings. Don't you believe that?
Well, I think that, the underlying score of every ailment or challenge that we'll ever face, and I've been saying this forever, and I'll continue to say it because I do believe it, is greed. And we've taken advantage of so much around us because we can. And the orca ramming into the ship, obviously there wasn't some cognitive goal to destroy every person on a ship. It's just that whatever this thing is obstructing the way we live down here. And with the whale coming up, when they say that during shark season, when the sharks come in, they get closer in. That didn't happen a while back. They didn't get as close to shore. They didn't need to. And so I believe that lessons that are presented to us, in order for us to slow down, to catch a breath, and to say, what does this mean, instead of just shooting all the orcas or slaughtering all the whales or killing all the shark or destroying whatever irritates us. I think we have to pull back and just say, what does this mean? And if only our collective leaders globally would have that wisdom to pull back and say, what does this mean? You can look to the wise leaders of any indigenous group, and every leader will say, listen to nature and pull back for a minute, take a break, pause.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and nature is trying to tell us something. I had a friend who went down to Mexico, and the seaweed has taken over because it's trying to, I think, get rid of the toxins that are in the ocean, because there's this dumping. So certain beaches, I think in Florida and in places in Mexico, are just being surrounded.
Yes.
Seaweed. And it has a purpose. It's kind of like when your body is inflamed. Inflammation is a way of your body trying to protect itself, protect an injury. But I feel like the seaweed is doing the same thing. So I think it's just like you said, it's about waking up and opening your eyes to what's going on, and saying, we need to just be aware of this, and what does this mean? And if we could collectively as countries come together and just go, look, we've got to do something together. This is not about, my political beliefs, I'm over here on this country and it's not about that. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, if wishes were fishes, right?
If wishes were fishes, they might eat you. If
wishes were fishes, I'd cast my line.
They might
that's an old expression. Well, we've got good stuff coming up, Mariel. We have somebody that you met recently coming up as our guest, who's amazing, a lovely soul.
She is a lovely soul. Her name is Shannon McGuire, and stay right where you are, because we're going to come back with an interview with her. She's written an incredible book. She has a lot of energy. So, stay right.
Fun in the sun.
You're listening to Out Comes the Sun Radio with Mariel Hemingway and Melissa Yamaguchi. Welcome back to Out Comes the Sun Radio. You're here with Mariel Hemingway. That's me, and my co-host Melissa Yamaguchi. And we have such a great guest. I've actually met her in person. She's incredibly inspiring. Her name is Shannon McGuire. And Shannon McGuire is a strategist, a coach, a speaker, an author, a mom of 4. Hello. And above all else, Shannon McGuire is a mom. She's, wow. I mean, what an incredible mom. She's a mother of four. She's built and honed valuable skills that she wants to pass on to others and parents and non-parents alike. She believes that the art and science of momming can help every human on this planet feel good about being themselves. And that's the key to a better world. This conviction is why Shannon created Super Me Moms, an organization dedicated to sharing mom wisdom to help people conquer obstacles in their lives, and so they can thrive. Shannon applies her mom skills in her many roles as entrepreneur, strategist, community leader, speaker, and coach. She is the founder and CEO, Chief Empowerment Officer of Spark and Strategic Solutions, an Idaho, yes, thank you, Idaho, my home state, Idaho-based consultancy company helping leaders build harmonious and co-creative communities. It's amazing. I am actually doing something with Shannon in a couple of weeks, I don't know. It's not long. We're doing this anyway. Shannon, welcome. You are extraordinary. You are extraordinary because you have juggled more than most of us have in our lives. Like, you grew up here in Los Angeles. And when I say you grew up in Los Angeles, you grew up in South Central. Am I correct?
Yes. Thank you so much for that. I'm extraordinary. I'm just ordinary. I'm a mom. But yes, my origins, my old stomping grounds. I grew up in South Central during the 80s and 90s.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, that's amazing because, I mean, I remember it was like, it's changed a lot since then, but it, that was the hood. So that's what you meant by it's not the hood you probably.
Kinda. Yeah, kinda. It's interesting because when I moved to Idaho about 15 years ago, the first thing was like, so where are you from? And when I would say it, they're like, how did you end up here?
Yeah. Right?
I'm like, there were stops along the way, but Idaho spoke to me, it called to me. But as I reflect on my origin story, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for growing up in that environment. It's made me who I am.
Sure.
Yeah. And in your book, Mothers from the Hood, Conquering Fear, Uncertainty, and Chaos in Life's Most Difficult Hood, you tell your personal story. Could you share a little bit of your story with us?
Yeah. So I like to say by the age of 10, I was a veteran of community war. So I had witnessed and gone through so much trauma, so many aces. I probably had 8, 9 by the time I was 10 years old in some ways. And some they don't even count because they don't get it. So by that time, I had a different view of life. I grew up fast. I had to grow up hard because we were surrounded by predators. Also, just the survival mentality. So I unfolded my origins in a way to explain what it was like to go through a quarter life crisis. Back in my day, we just said midlife, but I was only 25. So I broke down for a breakthrough. I shared my origins and sort of unfolded the journey to detangling. And the most difficult hood, I'll say, is victimhood. And I have to pause. Victimhood. I cannot stand the labels. It's like playground teasing and yo mama jokes. You're a victim. No labels. This isn't about labels and these identities of victim. I want to remove that word and really focus on victimhood as the mental construct in prison we put ourselves in, we end up in when life doesn't go our way. Enter mom wisdom. Think about toddlers, 3 years old. What happens when you say no and they finally register for the first time that they won't get their way? What? 3 majors, right? So I really I heartfully approached this, sharing my journal in some ways of my diary and what I went through so that I could read it during the tough times. So my family could read it and probably get some understanding on why I is the way I is. And more importantly, tying it all together is humanity for those that don't feel good about being themselves, because I think it's wildly important to create and culture. Well, how about curate joy? I just feel like there's so much fear, anger, disgust, sadness, and schadenfreude out there. We don't talk as much about joy. So you can still find joy in the hardships was the message of my story. Growing up in hard times and hard places didn't prevent me and my family from finding those nuggets of good. So when I think of Out Comes the Sun, this book was like coming out, my son, and like my mom closet. Like, this is the secret. Conquered it. Still conquering it because it's lifelong. Lord, it's lifelong.
That's amazing. Well, and the thing that we kind of resonated on when we were sitting next to each other in this so-called meeting we were having, because we're doing an event together, we just kept going, oh my God, you're my person. I speak your language, because you really understand. You understand that it's the choices we make every day. It's how we're living our lives. It's how you wake up in the morning. It's the food you're eating. It's whether you drink water. It's whether you're getting sun, like we were just talking about, whether you ground. I mean, I couldn't believe that you were like, yes, I totally, I take my shoes off. I do that. I mean, there were so many things that we just went, oh yes. And it just gives you confirmation that those things are actually powerful tools to help us balance our brain, to help us negotiate difficult and challenging times.
Oh, absolutely, Mariel. I think when I heard your story and your keynote, I was high-fiving things you were saying. The 7 doctors, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. Get grounded, the simple things, the ability to respond. I think responsibility has gotten bad raps lately, because I know that there's people in circumstances, I grew up with them, still are helping them every day in community, folks that feel like they're trapped and they can't get out. But I like to open everything with consent. Always be mindful of what you're consenting to. That's the power right there. That awareness of, what am I consenting to? What am I deciding? I can breathe more deeply. I can go outside and get sun. I can walk around. I can take those tiny moments and nuggets of gratitude and find joy, because that's the gateway. Gratitude is the gateway to joy. And despite the gunshots and the sirens and the craziness that I grew up in, I could find within me the joy that was always there. And that was hard, because I was like that joyful kid and I had to hide it because joy had no place in some of those environments. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not happy. And there were certainly moments as a kid where I wasn't happy, but I feel like now I feel called during this time to stand up and go, it's possible. It's possible to not be an anomaly as you unshackle from your family legacy. Thank you for sharing your story. It is such a testament to what's probable. And there's so many of us out there doing this work, no matter where and what hierarchy we fall in celebrity status. I'm extraordinary. But I appreciate you and others like you sharing your story as a beacon for hope and joy. We need more of it. So thank you for being you. And thank you for opening space for me to be me and share this. Seriously. Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure for both Melissa and I.
Well, I have a couple of questions. I read the book, which I'm going to do my little Price is Right moment here and bring it up again. Watching the show.
I miss Price is Right.
So the old Carol Merrill moments.
Oh.
So you there's some things you brought up that are so valuable. I had to put my glasses on to make sure I was reading the word right. You have an acronym that I would like for you to go through. You already know what I'm going to say. It is the acronym of FUCD.
Yep.
And this is about going, what you talked about a while ago, working through the victimhood. So I would like for you to tell us what FUCD stands for.
Yes, fear, uncertainty, chaos, division. I say it is the most heightened, dangerous place for moms and other caregivers to end up, because when we do that, we pose the biggest threat to humanity's well-being. When moms and caregivers give up, the world is FUCD, because I won't say it. I'm working on that. I'm working on the swear words. I have to put acronyms to them so I can explain them to my children.
Hey, here's a sidebar. I recently read that those who do allow profanity to slide into their conversation are less stressed and usually coming from a higher level of intelligence. So I'm going to ride with that one. I'm going to take that scientific study and I'm going to tap to it somewhere. Go ahead.
You got me. That's like right here. So when I say yes, I'm like, Melissa gave me permission. She says, yes. So it's interesting because in my culture and how I grew up, I was constantly surrounded by swear words. It was how communication happened, sometimes to celebrate, sometimes to get angry. So funny story, the S word for sure, I found goes back to my grandma on my dad's side. So my dad was explaining to me why I say this word so frequently. And he's like, your grandma used to clean the house, come home, whoosh. And I'm like, oh, talk about where that programs. So for the F word, I just kept thinking, what is a way that I could describe victimhood from my inner place that folks would get it? And I'm like, because when you have conversations when you're FUCD, they don't go well. They don't go well. So being fearful, uncertain, chaotic, and divisive, we enclose ourselves into these mental constructs of victimhood. And I like to say we go into the dark. And then when someone comes out and they are sunny and bright and shine, it hurts sometimes because you're like, wait a minute, who turned on that light? Why are you so damn happy? You know, it's just different ways that I've experienced it. And so I just thought, well, a nod to my culture, a nod to how my brain works, FUCD. So when I say it in my home and I use it, I know, I'm like, wait a minute, I might be in victimhood, which is a hard place to admit we are.
Yeah.
So hard.
You talk about the 7 tools also that you've utilized, and there's a line you said here that I want to highlight. You said you did some research on the difference between lotus flowers and water lilies.
Yes. So I'm just curious. I love pulling from all cultures. Always been fascinated by the lotus. So my husband bought me these water lily earrings and I'm like, lotus. He's like, they're water lilies. I'm like, there's a difference. So I went and researched it one day, just curious. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so similar, but different. I have so much respect for both. Where the lily floats on top, the lotus is so powerful. The lotus reminds me of the sun because in some ways it emerges from the murky, dark depths of just chaos and it opens pristinely and beautiful and pure. And this is a symbol in so many cultures of renewal and transformation and birth. So on the cover of my book, my wonderful, wonderful illustrator and partner, Jenny, helped me put into words what I was trying to say I was experiencing, even going through this process and revisiting, coming from this tangled mess of FUCD chaos. Out emerges the birth of this mother that is me. And at night, go back in sometimes, and then we come back out. Because you can't just stay out in the sun all day. Sometimes you just need sleep, you know? So we go. And I think that's one of the myths that I hope to help dispel about victimhood and not feeling good about being yourself, is that you have to stay there forever. To your point, Mariel, you can actively start to make decisions and choose tiny things. I am going to smile. I am going to acknowledge that I am breathing, and without breath, I wouldn't exist. I will see the sun. I can put on my favorite song and jam out. There's so many things we can do, we can respond to. So victimhood and FUCD became an easy way for me to showcase how bad and toxic it is when you fall in the shit pit. I said it. Sorry.
It's okay. I think we're okay.
Okay.
It's summertime and we're just going to work.
Totally. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, that metaphor of, coming out of the, it's such a metaphor for everything we do in our life. It's not just motherhood. It's, I think that sometimes you have to dig in deep into the dark things that seem so horrible. But then what you realize is, if you dig in, if you open your eyes to it, if you become aware of it, then all of a sudden it can emerge and become this lotus flower. It becomes something beautiful. But if you leave it in the inside, if you leave it in this murky darkness, it becomes bigger and bigger and you get more and more afraid of it. Whereas when you just address it, you can actually turn it into something. And that's what I feel like you've really done. You really came from this murky, dark place, and you have arisen out into life doing good things and honorable things and things that change people's lives. And you're also doing it, let's be honest, you're doing it in a state that is incredibly conservative, right? You're not the norm in Idaho. I mean, right? I'm not trying to be like,
yeah, totally.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
oh my goodness. Yes. When I travel, people say that when they're like, where are you from? I'm like, Idaho. They're what? Like, oh,
right. I mean, I love the state. I'm from it, but there are places in Idaho, not so much in Boise, not where I grew up in Ketchum Sun Valley, but there are places where their mindset is not as open and as expansive and not as forgiving and perhaps as help me with the word, Melissa. What word am I looking for? As I don't know.
Not
No.
as liberal
Yes,
minded.
thank you, liberal.
Yeah, they're not as liberal minded. Yeah.
It's not about being liberal or conservative. It's just about people are afraid of what they don't understand. And
Evolved. Not evolved. I can keep going.
Yeah.
You might want to stop me.
The thing I appreciate about Idaho, so I've traveled all over. I've gone far up east, everywhere, stomped through some of the places people told me I shouldn't stomp through. And the biggest thing that I've learned, I'll phrase it, Idahoans are good neighbors with tall fences. I think sometimes because there is such a rural community view of not staying up to date on things and what they do hear and see, they grow up with. So it's such an insular view, generationally, some ways. But I do find that I have had some of the best conversations with the people you would think are non-approachable. I found that a big part of it is energy, right? It's what energy are you walking in with? If you have I'll use I statements. When I walk in truth, trust, and openness, I can show up and receive. And I can be hell of aware because, I'm not stupid. I grew up in South Central. So not walking in areas that I shouldn't. And you can just energetically, intuitively feel. But I will say I love my home. I love it here. I do think we have some ways to go. And the thing for me is the division. It goes back to FUCD. It's you're this or you're not this, or you're here and you're not there. I live my way, you live your way, we get along. And why can't we do that? Usually because there's a outward view or a storyline that we expect others to follow. And Idaho certainly does not trend for the best things in the nation, not even for mom stuff. Lord have mercy. But at the same time, I think you'll know and appreciate it too, Mariel, because you've been here. There's this undertone of tight-knit community, superheroes in the background, making things happen. And I appreciate that. We have a ways to go, but I'm so hopeful because the people that I meet, they're such kind people. There's a kindness here that I have not experienced. I mean, Hawaii, yes, pockets of LA and other places I've traveled, but there's something special about people when they're open to receive. Some people are not. Some people just can't talk to their ass because you're like, nope. But there are more people.
Everywhere. But that's everywhere, right? That's not just Idaho. And I think you make a really important point that people being aware of how they show up. If your belief systems are written all over you, or I was brought up this way and your trauma is here and your this is here and my mother slapped me here, so you're defensive. If you're walking into a situation, no matter what it is, with all of that baggage, it's not going to be received well. I mean, Melissa probably has a better understanding of how energy shifts people and how it can. And I mean, she does things where, and you must make note of this. She does energy reads that are sent to you daily in a little text. But what's wonderful about that is it helps you to say, okay, so today I have low energy, so I need to boost myself. She actually gives you a tip in your thing. Like you need to be careful in certain areas, but I think that having an awareness of how we show up in the world, that is energy. And that's also taking responsibility for yourself and not assuming that there is somebody to blame, that the only way anything is happening in your life is because you actually orchestrated that. I mean, I think we are the orchestrators of our own existence, right? How we show up, we did all this, right?
Yes. And that's a hard pill for folks to swallow. It's like, you gave me the red pill, like, hold. Yes. Right. It's not, I instantly think I'm going to win the lottery and it happens. What we perceive and what we believe becomes our reality existence. It is such a small window of awareness that we have to pop into. And I know when I first started to express victimhood in a way that was tangible, oh man, you can't tell people they're in victimhood. Don't do that. Don't do that because they turn on you quicker than like a Siamese cat. Like, and I love cats. I just want to say the Siamese cat, there was something about that. Do you remember that? Was that Lady and the Tramp with those? Anyway,
That's right.
I just feel like that moment of pause is our ability to respond. And I love that word, responsibility, because it tells me the power that I have is already inside of me.
That's it.
Otherwise, I'm in victimhood going, you did this and I can't change until you change. That's like saying I'm not going to be happy unless it was sunny and 85 degrees on point every single day. It makes no sense. So
Yeah.
I am with you, but I understand when we are in survival consciousness, how hard it is to acknowledge what we've consented to. That's why I'm like, be mindful of what you're consenting to. The heart and mind are sacred. What we invite in and what we believe becomes our reality. So what do we have to believe to feel what we're feeling? So I'm like high-fiving you. Can't have this mini conversation with two people. This conversation, people rage and FUCD out. And I'm like, I'm just giving you love.
You know what? Don't you find though, you've got a line in your book where you say you're fighting to be me. And when you're fighting to be me, you're taking ownership of your life. And that's the whole tagline for my company. Because when you own your energy, you own your life. So when you're fighting to be me, you're saying, no, this is my life. I landed here, this point, this place and time. And I've got to, at some point, for some people, it happens young. They get an awareness, maybe younger, preteen. Some people, it doesn't happen till 20s, 30s, sometimes even. I'm waiting for some people to pick up and they're in their 60s. But nevertheless, when you finally get to that point, you know, when you hit that point and you're like, no, I need to own this life. I love this line, fighting to be me, because that's your truth. And I'd like for you to expand on that, because we've got audience that I know are listening. They're fighting to be me and they don't know how. Shannon.
Oh man, thank you for that. I see the image in the book of me as that little girl with that big ass backpack full of rocks of beliefs and burdens and expectations. And that was the first stage for me. I had to literally fight to be myself. I had to get to this place where I learned to say yes to me. It wasn't about no to them. Right. It was yes to me. It wasn't about boundaries. I feel like boundaries are so external and it's about blocking others from coming in. I'm about my guardrails. Fighting to be me is really about putting up those guardrails and understanding where my lane is, choosing to actively get in the car, take the wheel, go. And so the first stage of that evolution into becoming me and just super, super me was I had to fight for it. I literally had to fight for it. And it wasn't easy. And I still evolve through that to this day. I won't say I'm in the fighting mode anymore. I would say I'm flowing into, I'm relaxing, I'm releasing to be me. And it's a different, beautiful place. But the early stages of coming into your own, it is a fight. Yeah. It is. And it's not easy, because by saying yes to yourself, other people say, well, you're saying no to me. And then going back and forth and back, it's like, you see that? You're making it about you. I'm trying to make it about me right now. You're saying yes to me. Guardrails up, window up, I'm out, you know? So right. I feel like the nugget of encouragement I try to give is how young it starts. For me, that was 12 years old. That was 12 to 13. There's a blackout period there. The brain does what it needs to survive. But in those early teen years, I had to say yes to me and not what was defined for me. Woo!
Right.
Hard days.
Wow.
Hard days. Thank you for that. Oh, thank you. So cool that you get me.
Well, you've been through a lot, and we've done a lot of work on ourselves, and so have you, and you've taken that responsibility, that response ability, having response and rather than having reaction. And that takes repetition. You've got to keep doing that. And I think what your book does, it invites people to look at those habits they've done, and then invite new habits of awareness first, to be aware of how we're not responding, how we're reacting all the time, how we're anxious and all this stuff. And where do we take responsibility for that? Because ultimately it is in our choices, and especially being a mom, it's, there are times when it's super challenging and you see voices that aren't really your voice. Oh my God, I think that's my mom. Oh my God, whatever. Not that my mom was bad, but she was definitely not a responder. She definitely was a reactor, and so your book gives I'd like you to share some of the things that the takeaways from your book that you'd like people to know about.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I think I froze up there. Am I back? Yay. Thank you for that. The book unfolded over, almost 30 years in some way. So I think folks get that. I wanted to do that to say that I didn't arrive here overnight. The biggest thing that I've learned is the importance of answering the question, asking self and answering, how are you really? How are you really? And understanding that by acknowledging the feeling, I'm not the feeling, I'm the one that sees it. That subtle question becomes so powerful because there becomes this space to start with you. That's so important. That's the number one thing. And I love to put it into an acronym. Y'all know I love my acronyms. Joy, just observe you. Taking that time to just observe you gives you the space to answer and really become your own coach.
Yeah.
That's what I had to do at the youngest of ages. I didn't get it. I had to become that person and change, to your point, the voices that would come in and tell me who I was and what to believe, that constant fighting. It evolved eventually for me to say, what does it mean to feel good? How would I define that? To feel, I'm big on energy, Melissa, Mammy, and you, like energy is so important, and to feel good and self-define that. And then one of the most powerful things that happened to me after I acknowledged how I felt and the desire to feel good, and doing that, I could show up for the other people in my life.
Yeah.
I could turn my lens outward and see them. And once I did that, I could see how they were suffering. And those simple things, I would say, changed my world forever. There's more tools in there for sure, but just observing myself, coaching myself through it, acknowledging how I feel and going, I feel angry. That doesn't mean I am angry. I feel it. And by feeling it, I could say, wait a minute, if I'm feeling it, I acknowledge it, I can respond differently. I'm just hurt. This. So it's metacognition. It's having a conversation with self. I am wild. I'm witty. I'm crazy. I get it. And I mean that with the most love for the word. I had to suspend the realities that were put upon me and really go into a space to create my own self. And I would say the book really is from the heart of, while I came from hard places and hard things in part one, part two, I walked the reader through the conqueror's journey, I call it, of what it took to really understand what a gift my adversities were. I didn't see it then. I could see it now.
Yeah.
And I could also see my parents and the folks around me with such love and compassion, because I went, oh my gosh, they learned this and they learned this and they learned this. And it stopped the blame.
Yeah.
It made me recognize that we are all fighting and battling things, and we can unshackle from the victimhood mentality. So I really put my foot in it, as my family would say, and just tried to give something in a way that made tangible the shared feelings. No matter where we come from, we have these shared feelings of fear, anger, disgust, sadness, schadenfreude, deriding joy off another's misery, which is so toxic. It's our most subtle toxic sickness that we have. But it just opened my heart. And I thank you for receiving the message, because I could tell you writing that thing was hard. It's hard. It's hard because I was coming from my head, and it wasn't until I came with my heart words that it flowed beautifully and the lotus popped up. And I was like, yes.
Oh, I love that. You said, I feel angry, but I'm not angry. And all I could think was, I'm using this line because I have been accused of having resting bitch face. I'm not mad. I'm just contemplating.
Just about to say that. I'm contemplative and considerate. Give me a moment.
I am listening. I love all that.
Oh, I love that.
Oh,
I have a resting joy face, so people mistake it like I'm agreeing. And I'm like,
no, I'm not. That's awesome. Well, we're kind of wrapping up, and I'm sad to say that, but I want people to know that you're doing incredible work with trying to, reduce poverty, help teens, which is one of the things close to my heart. And it's one of the things that we're going to do in Boise. We're going to have a community conversation with many different kinds of people, but I really hope that this conversation kind of opens up that talk to teenagers who are not the easiest to talk to, actually. So I would really love for you to just take a second and tell us about Spark and what you do there.
Yeah, Spark, I say we lead leaders. We get to help bridge the divides between differing perspectives by inviting folks to listen and learn and hear how folks really are before they make decisions. I'm so excited to do that event with you. I'm so excited. Yes, yes.
It's going to be so good. You are a delight and so bubbly and so great. And I don't know, Melissa, I think it was pretty awesome.
I struggled through the entire interview, but I'm still
I
here.
saw the resting bitch face.
You saw the resting bitch face.
Throughout
I'm
the
going
whole
to work
thing.
on that resting joy.
I don't know. That's dangerous. That's like Lucy Ricardo right there. That's dangerous.
I've been called that before, so I'll take it. You are fantastic. Thank you
Thank you so much. Thank
you so
you.
much, Shannon. And I'll see you in a couple weeks. Cool.
Yay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back to Out Comes the Sun. I'm Melissa Yamaguchi with my co-host Mariel Hemingway, and I'm here to share with you an energy tip. So in energy, not only do you focus on the different components of your home, the different rooms and directions and so forth, as our society is aging and there are more baby boomers over the age of 60 and 65 in greater concentration, I should say, in different communities. We need to be aware of what does it mean to live with an elder in your home. And whether you've brought in an in-law or a parent or a cousin, someone in your family who is older, how do you energetically, through the lessons of feng shui, get your home prepared to understand how to handle this? So there are some different tips that we utilize in feng shui when bringing in an elder into your home. And the first one is to remember to bring the outdoors in. We know that nature can reduce stress and anxiety. And oftentimes, if an elder moves into your home, or even if you have had to place an elder into a nursing home, you want to bring some nature in. You want to bring in plants. Not only does it help with the oxygen, but it is a great stress reducer. So in feng shui, we will strategically place plants around to promote healthy air, but to also reduce anxiety and stress. You also want to add color. If a room is too white or too tan or whatever the one color, I can't imagine too red or too black, but if somebody would have that, but you have to promote and bring in splashes of color. If the room is predominantly white or cream, then adding an accent pillow or a vase or something of color will bring in good cheer. Color has an ability to lift your vibration. So color is very important. I also want to encourage you to bring the sunshine in. If you do not, if your elder, your loved one, is in a room where there's no window, then you must bring in lights with specific light bulbs that can emulate the sunshine for them to keep them in a happier space. But if you do have a room that has sunshine, then by all means, allow the sunshine to come in the room when you have it. We've been experiencing some gloomy June here in Southern California, but if you can allow sunshine in, please do that as well. Very important for your elder. I also want to tell you that in feng shui, one of the biggest principles of feng shui is to eliminate clutter. It's easier said than done sometimes, especially when I was clearing out my mother's email this morning as she and I were at an appointment, and there were some 4,000 emails, and I'm flying through them. The majority of them were nonsense, and I'm deleting them. She said, are you sure you're not deleting something important? I said, this one's from 2018. I think you're all right. So I'm letting go of stuff. And as I gave her phone back, she was commenting to me on how fast things were coming in, the text that she was getting or whatever. In the environment of all of us, but in particular, the elders, we've got to eliminate clutter, because clutter not only creates stagnant energy around you where pockets of grief can culminate, pockets of anxiety, depression, but it physically poses a danger because the elders can trip and fall. So eliminate clutter. And then lastly, consider bringing in scent. Sometimes as our elders age, they lose their ability to have strong sense of smell. But it is still proven that essential oils of lavender around the bed can promote comfort and calm. And if they have a kitchen area, then basil is really good, or a citrus in the restroom. There are scents that you want to bring in to create calm, even if your elder says, I can't really smell it. Bring it in because it does promote a sense of calm for those that are coming to visit them also. That's my tip. I hope I didn't go too long. I hope you can pick up on some of those. Stick around. Coming up next is Mariel Hemingway with a tip on balance.
Welcome back, everybody, to Out Comes the Sun Radio. And thank you. Yes, I do have a tip on balance. And my tip today is about sugar. I want to talk about a spoonful of sugar didn't help the medicine go down. Sugar is, I'm not going to be somebody who's going to tell you that sugar is like the worst thing in the world, but it isn't the best thing for you. So I'm going to tell you to become conscious of how much sugar you ingest. When my ex-husband had cancer years ago, when he first got it, I got very involved in his, healing as one does, with somebody you love and you want them to get better. And one of the first things we did is we changed his diet and we eliminated sugar from his diet completely. And that meant white flour. That meant any kind of flour products. You don't realize that actually bread and pasta and rice and all of these different things turn into sugar in the body. The body doesn't know any difference between bread and pasta and that and a piece of chocolate cake, which is obviously a lot of sugar, because sugar feeds cancer cells, and they're just going to get more and more and more. I just know that if you know of anybody, I highly encourage changing their diet. It can be a game changer for anybody trying to heal. Most diseases are caused by inflammation, and sugar is one of the biggest causes of inflammation in the body and the brain, funnily enough. Now, all this being said, you might be like, just tuning out. I don't want to hear Mariel tell me that I can't eat sugar because I love to have a little cookie in the afternoon. Well, look, if you're just having a cookie at 4 p.m, then that's fine. But if you're having a cookie and you're also having a couple of glasses of wine and you're putting sugar in your coffee and then the list goes on, and then you go to a restaurant and there's sugar in the salad dressing, right? You think you've chosen a healthy choice. Just be aware that sugar is kind of hiding in everything. So my help to anybody who wants to limit sugar, because I'm not saying you're never going to have sugar again. I'm saying make sugar a treat. Because when I was a kid, I was brought up in a way that sugar, like treats and dessert, wasn't something you had every night. That was kind of special. And I remember we would go out to dinner. Maybe we actually, when I grew up in Idaho, there weren't that many restaurants, but we would only go out maybe once a month. And dessert, my mother didn't make dessert every night, but she made it maybe once a week, right? And so sugar was like, it was fun and exciting. And I think that things like maybe like glasses of wine or sugar treats and having a cookie and stuff, if you make them kind of celebratory and something that very special that you only do once in a while, let me tell you something about making them special. You will enjoy them so much more. You will taste them with your whole being. So it's not about, I don't ever do this again. It's about being mindful and moderate. So that's my tip for the day. Just be a little bit moderate with your sugar and start this week to become aware of how much sugar you're eating, because you might be surprised. It might be a little bit too much.
Well, Meryl, you remember Little House on the Prairie? Laura Ingalls only got a cube of sugar at Christmas time.
Oh my!
It was a special thing found in the stocking. So yeah, we might have to go back to that. I'm just buying cubes of sugar and giving it out for Christmas, and that's all you're getting, Missy.
Yeah, so we all have to limit sugar anyway, but we don't have to live in the prairie. if you don't want to. You can't agree. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening to Out Comes the Sun today. We love being here. Melissa Yamaguchi, my amazing co-host, and myself, Mariel Hemingway. We'll see you next time on Out Comes the Sun.
Out Comes the Sun has been a production of Evolve Entertainment. Hosts Mariel Hemingway and Melissa Yamaguchi. Executive producer Jeremiah Higgins. And sound engineer and producer Richard Dr. D. Dugan. Thank you for listening.